The Secrets of Middle-earth is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit GiveStarQuest.com.
You're listening to The Secrets of Middle-earth, where we discuss the hidden themes and deeper layers found in the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, whether in his writings or in any of the media derived from them. I'm Jeff Haecker, and today we are discussing
Record scratch! Nothing says stop everything like the sound of obsolete technology malfunctioning.
In place of a dark lord, you will set up a queen, and I shall not be dark, but beautiful and terrible as the morning and the night, fair as the sea and the sun and the snow upon the mountain, dreadful as the storm and the lightning, stronger than the foundations of the earth. All shall love me and despair. Or it's just me, Alix Murray. And joining me today are my lovely co-host from The Secrets of Sacred Art, Kathryn Laffrey.
Hello, Alix, and I am no man.
No man. And my other lovely co-host, Jeff Haecker. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, Alex, and I am a man.
Yes. We were just saying that Jeff is our Tolkien man today. So, in honor of Mother's Day, we wanted to discuss some of our favorite women of Middle-earth. Tolkien was influenced by a number of women during his lifetime. His beloved mother, whom he believed died a martyr's death. She was a Catholic convert, and after she was widowed, her family rejected her and her two young boys because of her conversion. She worked herself to death to support her children, and Tolkien and his brother were orphaned and raised by the Oratorians in Birmingham. His lovely wife, Edith Mary Tolkien, who was an inspiration for the most endearing love story in Middle-earth, in my opinion, and that of Beren and Luthien. And lastly, Tolkien's Catholic faith, especially formed by the Oratorians, would have been grounded with a devotion and love for the Blessed Mother. So in this episode of The Secrets of Middle-earth, we'll discuss the powerful, the beautiful, the brave, and the mysterious women of Tolkien's universe. So this is something that we've been looking forward to. And I just want to ask you both we're going to look at some of the details of the women of Middle-earth, but starting with you, Kathryn, what are some of your thoughts, initial thoughts that you come up with when you think about the women in Tolkien's universe?
They're probably some of the most relatable women for me in any literature and movies. Yeah, we left off one descriptive, though, of his women. Don't forget the hairy little women.
Oh, gosh.
Thank goodness if you go frame by frame in some of the movies, you can catch that the dwarf women have lovely little beards braided into their hair even.
And really pretty clothes, I have to say. I love their clothes and their hairstyles. Anyway.
But no, the best thing about it, and just reading different articles and different viewpoints about, why weren't there more women and all this other stuff, and knowing Tolkien's point of view and, men off to war and all that other stuff. The best thing my husband ever said to me was, I'm glad you're working at home and being with our children, because it makes it easier for me to do my job, knowing that everyone's taken care of. Yeah.
My husband has said similar. Yeah. But, there are some pretty, I guess his perspective isn't one that a lot of people share today, but I think it's, I like it because before I give my opinion, I want to hear Jeff's thoughts on his initial, what comes to your mind when you think of the women of Middle-earth?
Yeah, so I've read the Legendarium, at least the, what's considered the canon, the Silmarillion, Hobbit, and Lord of the Rings several times. And, I think in the Hobbit, there's not as many female women characters. In the Lord of the Rings, there are some very key ones. I think the main one I'm thinking of is Éowyn. But you also have, in that one, the ladies play, except for Éowyn and some others, kind of play more of and Galadriel, I guess, are kind of more of a background kind of role. But it's really when you get into the Silmarillion, which was the first things he really wrote about Middle-earth, is when you really get the detailed stories of the ladies of the Valar, the ladies of the elves. Luthien was just as important as Beren in that story of Beren and Luthien.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I think the representation in the text, at least for The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, I think it kind of depends on the type you're telling, because The Hobbit is more of a children's book. And while he could have had some, lady characters in there, more so than a certain elf who loves a dwarf in the Hobbit movies. But
yeah, you had to go there already.
I did, but so I think that one it's when you get into like Lord of the Rings and you start to see, I think, more of what he was going for. And then of course in the Silmarillion, which was published posthumously, is when you really see how important and how active and participating the women were in these stories, even if they're not, there's not stories about them necessarily where they're the focus in a lot of the stories. There are a few, but they're all very present and very important in the stories, and are important in raising of these characters in some of them, and of, being their support. So yeah, I think, it's not modern fantasy where it's almost, you have a lot more leading ladies in these stories. It's much more of a kind of the time where these books were not really written as directly for both audiences necessarily. It was kind of written mostly for boys, because that's just kind of the culture of the time, was these things appealed more to the guys. But, of course, as the culture has developed, women, and of course y'all especially love these stories. So I think there's definitely, it is a product of the time, but it's also the stories, and maybe not as much as there would be in a current telling. But I think he, as we said, his background, with his mom and his family, his wife, is very important to these stories.
Yeah. And I also have to say, it's interesting you say that it was written for boys, because I know in the bookshop where I work, we get a lot of vintage books in, a lot of very old books, some 150, 200 years old. And they do have like books for girls and books for boys. And, Kathryn and I, one of the things, we have lots in common, but one of the things we do have in common is we both are tomboys. Even we were tomboys growing up, and that just never went away. I think we've become, I've always liked makeup, but I'm also a tomboy. And so
if there's a tree, I would climb it.
Yes, exactly. If there's a stone, I'm going to kick it. but I think it never occurred to me that these were stories for boys. You know what I mean? It was, and it never, until someone sort of pointed out like, oh, there aren't any women in The Hobbit. I had no idea. It didn't even cross my mind, because I guess I could just it was so easy for me to jump into that universe and just be part of it. It didn't occur to me that there needed to be like a prerequisite of, I didn't need an example of a woman, if that makes any sense, because I was already in the story. And I think that's what I love about, and as you said, Kathryn, I can relate to a lot of the women, whereas in a lot of modern fantasy, I really struggle to relate to women because I feel like they're trying a bit too hard. And with the exception of Wheel of Time, I really like the women in Wheel of Time. But, like I said, for me, it's hard for me to relate to a woman doing something that I would never do, or get involved with some dude. I don't know. It's just, that was always like, whatever. And the women, one of the things I love about Tolkien's women is they are very focused. They have a lot of self-respect. They have a lot of agency. And I think that's rooted in the strong women that he had in his life, whether it was his mother, his wife, or the Blessed Mother. These are very, quote unquote, very unconventional women. And yet these are the kinds of, they have qualities that just, they surpass time. especially Our Lady, of course.
Yeah,
But
and understanding Tolkien's Catholic background, I can read this and see the Catholic culture in the fact that you don't have to be brought to the forefront to know that you're doing something. You don't have to be in the spotlight. You don't have to say something to know that you're active in the culture. And I can watch Lord of the Rings and watch The Hobbit and not see a woman on screen for hours on end to know they're still there and they're still working and they're still doing something.
Exactly.
And I think that's the most important thing, is to think about the fact that I feel it's a great privilege as a stay-at-home mom, all the years that I stayed home and still doing, little different jobs, odds and ends and things, to know that in my own little way, in my own little kingdom, I'm keeping this culture going. And that's what women are. And I feel like that's what it is for Tolkien too. I was reading an interesting master's thesis someone wrote like 12 years ago, and talked about the arts and crafts movement and that getting back to what really matters in Tolkien's writing. And it's like, the women are there. We're holding the culture, and we don't have to be seen for people to know that there's actually something going on. And I feel that was the most important thing for me with the women and the culture of Middle Earth. They're there. They don't have to be seen. And that's not in the background. They are the background.
Yeah. And they're not secondary.
What the world happens in. The world wouldn't exist without them. They're the moms.
Exactly.
And it's funny because I have the interesting perspective of, over the last, year and a half, helping my dad adjust to life without my mom. And for him now to see the unseen, that she's not there. He's seeing all that kept his life moving. All of a sudden, he's like, I have to clean the kitchen every day. Yeah, it didn't happen magically before. There was no little elf. That was your wife. So it's just, we're seen when we need to be seen.
Exactly. And I think they weren't secondary. As I said, you could be in the background, and of course, thinking about art, and how important, if you're preparing a canvas or wood, the gesso and everything, and depending on I guess the medium you use, whether it's fabric, preparing the background is everything. Like the stuff on the top is interesting, but if you get it wrong in the background, it doesn't matter what's on the top at all. And I think that's and it's nice to imagine these women in the background and just working along. So let's kind of get into the specifics. I had divided this into the different ages of Middle Earth. And I thought we might not all have like, oh, here are my two from the first age, and here are my two from the second age. I was just dotting around. So, now, do either of you have anyone from the years of the trees that come to mind? So this would be prehistory, pre-Arda. Jeff, how about you?
Yeah, it's mostly at that point, it's really the Valar and the Maiar that are the ones that we really see. We start to get introduced to the elves, but I think it's not really until the first age that we start seeing really the elves become the primary drivers of the story. So I think the first, prehistory years of the trees, it's really about what the Valar are doing, and the Maiar are doing. And as we were talking, I was thinking, it's interesting that most of the Valar have the Valar are all married or paired off, I believe. The only one who's not is Melkor, and look what happens to Melkor as he goes off doing his own thing, leading to everything bad that happens pretty much. So I was just thinking of it's primarily in those ages, the Valar and the Maiar, and offhand, I only remember a couple of the Valar, since they're, because I'm just thinking of like in the, the War of Wrath against, or not the War of Wrath, whatever the first war against Morgoth is, or Melkor is, when he goes off to do his own thing, but really before the elves have even awoken, and the Valar have to go fight him and destroy a lot of Arda in the process. You have the characters, you have like, the ones doing the actions like Tulkas and those, the guy Valar going and fighting him. But then you have the actions of like Yavanna, who's basically makes everything grow, and how important she is to kind of restoring Arda's, or bringing, Arda more to life after this horrible marring, after Melkor's, actions to go and destroy mountains and everything he does.
Yeah, exactly. Kathryn, how about you? Do you have anybody from the Years of the Trees?
The only stuff I know about that is what I've heard on Secrets of Middle-earth.
Fair enough.
I have not read enough.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I mean, the Silmarillion is such an amazing read. We should read it together. We should. Like one chapter.
I'm trying to see 1 page a day. So,
well, you know what? Actually, I think that's the way to read the Silmarillion, is 1 page a day. But, I will just say who I picked from the prehistory of the Years of the Trees. And Jeff, you already mentioned her, Yavanna. And she was not Aule. Oh, what was her husband's name? He was the smithy.
Oh, Aule? Aule.
Is it Aule?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Yes. So, and Yavanna was responsible for creating the trees. So she created the 2 trees in Arda. And I just love how she, when her husband created the dwarves and he was the smith, and she saw how people were taking her creation. And I guess in her mind, she was really sad, because she's like, I've created all these beautiful things, and people are coming in and they're using it to build things. They're like cutting down the trees. And my husband's made these weird little hairy creatures, and I don't know what to do about that. And one of my favorite conversations is when she has with Manwë, and she goes to him, and I think, Tolkien says she sits at his feet, almost like a student. And she kind of tells him, this wasn't my plan when I started making all this stuff. And he is very kind to her, and he explains this is part of, I said Ainur. Oh my gosh, I can't think of anybody's name. The big god.
Oh, Eru Ilúvatar.
Eru Ilúvatar. Ainur. Anyway, and he says that this is part of Eru's plan. This bit of suffering that you have, and I think that's a really beautiful, compassionate way he talks to her. And then I can also understand what she's saying. I can really relate to what she's saying. Like, this doesn't make any sense. I've created this beautiful thing, and it's, it doesn't seem to matter.
Like Martha and Mary.
Yes. Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And my other one was Vare, and she's the weaver. And of course, with us being big fiber art nerds, and learning about the power of weaving in ancient times, I'm sure Tolkien would have been aware of this. I just love how she's the weaver of Arda and weaves together Arda. That's just so incredible. But anyway, Jeff, did you come up with someone else?
Well, I was just going to say on Vare, she's the wife of Mandos, who of course runs the halls of Mandos, where everyone who dies in Arda, they go and spend time there. So she's kind of the, if I'm remembering correctly, she's kind of the one who kind of weaves the dreams and things like that of all of Arda. So she definitely has an interesting role with Mandos. But the other one I was thinking of, I mean, we could go down the list of all the Valar, but the other one I was thinking of is who she's also not married. So I'm wondering if the idea was that she would have been Melkor's spouse, is Nienna, who's the Lady of Mercy and is responsible for all grief and all mercy in Arda. So I wonder if she would have been like, if the intention was for her to be married to Melkor, who went off and caused a bunch of grief and sadness,
and suffering and
suffering.
Sadness,
So she's kind of a counterpoint.
Something like that.
So if she wasn't supposed to be his spouse, she at least is kind of his counterpoint. And, Melkor is kind of the one causing all the destruction, and she's the one who handles all the grief and mercy. So she's almost more the Virgin Mary of the Valar, more than Yavanna.
Yeah. Now that's a good point. That's a really fascinating point. And that's a really good lead into the First Age, because the one woman I thought I guess I'd call her female, with Morgoth is Ungoliant. See what happens? You end up with a psychopath. But I think I thought about Ungoliant because she is this really frightening woman. She's almost like all these things leave me when we start recording. Like half the stuff goes out of my head. Medea, the Greek myth of Medea who kills her children because she's angry with, it's a way to punish her husband Jason. And this woman or this female creature who turns in on herself, and she destroys the trees that Yavanna created in the First Age. And this is kind of in the years of the trees. And so in the First Age, Ungoliant and Melkor, who was at that point Morgoth, I believe, and you can just really see she's a really dark and frightening creature. And she ends up ultimately even consuming herself. That's crazy.
Yeah.
No. Kathryn, are you sure you even want to read this?
I know. I'm like starting to second guess. I mean, it's bad enough too many names sound familiar. Now we got people eating themselves.
Well, so Ungoliant is the mother of Shelob. So she is portrayed as like, she's described as like a spider type creature. And I guess, where did she come from? Who knows where she came from? I don't think Melkor created her.
No. And so kind of my theory, or my headcanon for Ungoliant is she was, because all of the Maiar, the kind of the lower Ainur spirits, like Gandalf and Sauron and everybody, they're all kind of the lower level of the Ainur, and they all serve the Valar. And so I kind of think that, or my kind of headcanon is that Ungoliant was, and there's usually a Maiar of something. There's like Maiar of light, Maiar of this or that, and they're all kind of aligned to the Valar. So I kind of think that she might have been the Maiar of darkness, but not in a bad way, but just like she is the embodiment of darkness and of, because what she does, because she ends up, consuming the light of the tree, like actually consuming the light because of in part of what happens with all the all the Balrogs and Sauron is they're twisted by, or they fall in with Melkor. And so I'm kind of thinking that she was one of those that fell in, like she had a role within the hierarchy if she had followed the music of Iluvatar or the music of the Ainur. But she kind of fell in with Melkor and was twisted into becoming, from the Maiar of darkness. Like she could have been a shapeless kind of being, but she fell in with Melkor. And, it is a thing in Tolkien that that'll eat the Valar, and even some of the Maiar, or really it's Melkor who's the main shapeshifter of the Valar. But a lot of the Maiar, they kind of shapeshift. Like Sauron's a shapeshifter for a while. And so I think, but as you kind of get tied to the world, you lose those abilities, like Melkor eventually does. And when Sauron creates the ring, he loses that ability. So I kind of think that she was the Maiar of darkness, and no, but not in a bad way. But then she was twisted, and that's why she's so all consuming of the light of the trees, because she had that lack within herself that wasn't a bad thing until Melkor told her it was a missing thing.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And I think that is something, I can only speak like from the perspective of a woman. I do think that is something women are very vulnerable to. Like, this fault that you didn't know you had. I mean, there's like a whole industry called cosmetics that kind of put that pressure on women. And I just think Ungoliant is, I don't know. I don't have any compassion for her. I just think she's an incredibly dangerous creature. And the fact that in the end, even Melkor was afraid of her. She was crazy.
Yeah. And when she bit Melkor, when they were escaping, like his screams echo for, I think they're in Valinor or in Aman, the continent where the Valar live. But I think there's a part where her screams kind of will echo forever or where his screams will echo forever because of how painful that bite was.
I know. That's crazy.
And then like you said, she goes off and eventually gives birth to other spiders, all the way down to what we see in Lord of the Rings. But I like the text is interesting because it is said that, I think it says something like, it is said that she is to this day like consuming herself for eternity because of how insatiable her hunger is.
Yeah. Yeah. She's just this evil, no giving, just all take, all consuming. Yeah. Yeah. She's a really, disturbing creature. So do you have anybody else from the First Age, or shall we move on?
Well, yeah. And so the First Age is where we start to get the elves come into play. And, I think the big ones and some of the Maiar as well. Yeah, and I think the big ones to talk about are Melian and her daughter Luthien. But I believe it's before they leave Aman that Galadriel refuses. She kind of rebuffs Feanor, because Feanor, who's the one who created the Silmarils, which started, everything bad, almost everything bad happening. He wanted a lock of her hair, or he wanted something like that. And they're cousins, she and Feanor, but I think cousins. I don't think they're like half siblings. Cousins. Okay.
No, he's her uncle.
Oh yeah. Because she's
like, that makes it better. But anyway,
because she's the.
Yeah, it just sounds creepy.
Yeah, I know. It was very creepy.
Because she's descended from Finway's second wife, and Feanor was Finway's first wife, or the son of Finway's first wife. But anyway, she kind of rebuffs Feanor and doesn't want to be as close to him, which is interesting because, Feanor was kind of the highest elf there was at the time, or one of the highest elves, one of the most strong and powerful spirit, and she refuses him. So I think that was very powerful, because, and then her family later, even though they go to Middle Earth kind of following Feanor's group, they're not part of the kinslaying, which is, that's part of Feanor's big problem, is he did the kinslaying, and then doom was pronounced upon him and everyone there. But Galadriel's family was part of like the second wave that I think she had to cross kind of the icy path, the Helcaraxe. Yeah. And then
are you getting all this, Kathryn?
Hey, I heard doom. Yeah, doom. So I had to say
that. And we can talk about her more in the Third Age too, but it's interesting the contrast between where she is here, where she's refusing Feanor, who's her close kin, and then yet when a dwarf asks her humbly for a strand of her hair, she gives him 3. So it's interesting that that humility that one shows that the other does not. That
exactly
getting that precious gift.
Exactly, and we should say that the reason her Feanor was drawn to her hair is because it was said that her hair held the light of the 2 trees that had been destroyed. So she was a woman who carried this memory of a beauty that had been destroyed by a psychopathic spider. So, Kathryn, did you want to say anything about Galadriel in the First Age? Are you aware of that? Have you seen Rings of Power?
Nope, I haven't been following any of that yet.
Okay, so. That's no big deal. No, it's like you're okay. You don't need to follow it.
Yeah, I have some notes on her in the Second Age that may or may not be canonical to what.
Yes. So I tell you what. So in the Second Age, shall we just talk about Galadriel, because she's nice. We can just
that's fine.
bring her through. It's nice that she's in all three ages.
Yeah.
So what did you want to say? Unless there's anybody else that you wanted to talk about in the First Age, but if not, we can just talk about Galadriel and her presence in the Second Age.
Well, I think we need to, before we move on to the First Age, from the First Age, we have Melian and Luthien, who I think are, Luthien was literally the story he wrote about him and his wife.
That's right. Oh yeah. Oh, totally. Oh yes. Let's talk about Luthien and her mother Melian. But what do you have to say about Luthien? She's Kathryn. Can I just say this? Sorry, I'm like promoting this. Kathryn,
I remember the guys talking about this, loving it, and then remembering it is referenced in the Lord of the Rings books.
Yes.
So, and I remember just that beautiful story in there, and it was very touching, and I just liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but I think the character of Luthien you would love. She's cool. She's really cool. And she gives Sauron a thrubbing.
Yeah. she sings before Morgoth. Like, she's part of the quest to get a Silmaril, because that was, she and Beren met she was singing in a glade, and Beren, who'd been in the wilds for however long, kind of comes bursting in and sees her, and a grubby man from the woods comes and sees the most beautiful child of Iluvatar, and of course he's going to fall in love immediately, and she does the same.
Which is weird.
Yeah, she falls in love with him, and
which was the weird part, that they fall in love immediately.
No, he's like gross and grubby.
Well, she has that elvish sight that sees kind of the unseen world.
True.
So she can, and not even joking, like
that I can relate to. Seriously. That's how I met my husband.
You were dancing in a glade?
I was dancing in a glade. No. First day in college, hanging out with my roommates. And then he walks in from playing basketball, grubby, sweaty mess. I looked at him and I could see there's the diamond in the rough. That's the guy for me. So,
oh wow,
I stalked him from then on.
So you're like Beren. You've got to read Beren and Luthien.
Yeah,
really. Yeah, you would love it. Okay. You would absolutely love it. Yeah,
yeah, and so, but I think she does have the elvish like sight of the unseen world and can see something there that is not just the physical world, because elves kind of exist in both the physical seeing world and then kind of the unseen spirit world. They kind of exist in both. Yeah. So, but yeah,
that's a good point.
But they, she wants to marry him. He wants to marry her, but her dad, of course, doesn't want her to marry him, but gives him an impossible quest to go get a Silmaril, which are all in the crown of Morgoth.
That was my dad too.
I know. I'm telling you, this was your story, Kathryn. Yes, you've got to read this one. You and Stan, you'll love it. You absolutely love it.
Yeah, but she goes with Beren. She sings, and I think she also has to escape her, of course, Feanor's sons. I think they try to like trap her, or her dad traps her and like puts her up in like a Rapunzel style like treehouse thing. But she escapes and then follows him, and she sings Morgoth to sleep, and then she has a rap battle with Sauron to there's a whole magic thing, and like she's so powerful, her song like brings like a tower down. It's that powerful, that because she's the daughter of Melian, her mom is a Maiar, so she has that Maiar blood that kind of gives her that extra power.
That extra oomph. Yeah. But what's kind of amazing about Luthien is, and I think a lot of Tolkien's women characters are like this, like nothing would have happened without her. Beren was like, I can't go get the Silmaril. What am I going to do? And she's like, yes, you are. I'm coming with you. And, so she, and he was imprisoned at one point. Mm-hmm. And she and again, Huan, the dog.
Oh, her talking dog.
Don't get me started on him. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so they go and they do battle. How amazing is she? You know, battle with her voice. And she wins. And I love how Sauron turns himself into a bat and flies off. What a creep.
Well, I think too, Luthien and Beren, they kill like a bat creature, and and it's kind of unclear in the text, but I think they kill a bat creature, and one of them kills a bat, or they both kill a bat and like a wolf or something, and they kind of put on their pelts as a disguise, and she's able to I think she's able to fly with it or something. It's
something crazy. Yeah. So she like puts on the skins of this animal that she's slain, and she goes in, and I mean, Kathryn, you would like her a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got to read about her.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. So, okay. So that's the second. Anybody else? We could talk about Melian, who I think was a very level-headed, woman, and Maiar, and Melian's girdle actually protected the city, and allowed this culture to thrive, because she put like a magic spell around the city. And I think that's a lovely idea. I think you can do that as a woman as well. You can create this place of safety and a haven for the people you love. You know, that's what the home is, right?
Yeah. And she tells...
Think about the ways grandmothers pass on family traditions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And her husband was a bit emotional, and she was really good at just going, look, just relax.
And he never listens to her. Like, she's pronouncing doom all the time, and
I know, doom.
He's pronouncing doom. It's telling you, like, if you do these things, like if you get caught up in this quest for the Silmaril, it will lead to doom, and he just does it anyway.
I know.
And I think at one point Galadriel's in their city too, and hanging out with Melian and Luthien as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and they're talking about how he never listens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, typical guy stuff. You're being told information by a very intelligent,
that's a tricky one.
Woman.
It's so tricky. Yeah, well, because I learned early on 2 requests. Like, if I ask my husband to do something once, the second time it's like, you're nagging me. I'm like, nagging you? I'm just asking. But so I always, I wait and wait and wait. So I learned early on in my marriage, ask one time, and then if it doesn't happen, and then I'll be like, well, why is this still here? It's like, oh, well, I did ask you to move that. oh, yeah, you did. Sorry. But if it's like, you're nagging me. So it's something I don't understand. Again, I'm not a man. I don't understand why you don't listen.
We'll get to it eventually.
Exactly. Oh, goodness. Okay, so how do you want to talk about Galadriel in the Second Age, or as seen in the Rings of Power? Do we want to talk about that, Jeff?
Sure, and just one more to mention is Elwing, who is the wife of Earendil. She, because Earendil's the descendant of Beren and Luthien, and Elwing is as well from another line, and they eventually get married and have kids, which is Elrond. And
yeah, that's right.
But Elwing also turns into a bird and flies with. I think she flies with Earendil, because Earendil's going to fly for eternity, pulling the star in his ship, and she didn't want to be alone. And so I don't remember all the specifics, but something about that is she turns into a bird to kind of be able to be with him, or something along those lines. So I just want to mention her because she has cool powers.
yeah, and Elwing, the bird. Okay, yeah.
But yeah, if you want to talk about Galadriel, warrior princess.
Oh my gosh. So okay, Kathryn, so I just have to tell you, Rings of Power, this is what was so frustrating for me. Like, the women in Tolkien were so exceptional. So, their characters were so dignified and they were unusual. And then I just felt like Rings of Power just reduced Galadriel to like every other girl boss that you see in films. And she has this really bad attitude. Sorry, Jeff. See, you want me to go off on this, but I mean, oh my gosh. Oh, thinking about this, and I don't know if guys are like this. Again, I actually here's one of my secrets. When I was a teenager, I didn't really have a lot of friends who were girls. I hung out with the guys all the time because girls my age drove me nuts. And I didn't have like friends who were girls really until I was a mother and I had to start going to the toddler groups. And now I think I have like a nice balance, but for a long time, I couldn't relate to women, and I couldn't relate to women who wanted to be like men either, which sounds weird as a tomboy. I wasn't trying to be a boy. I liked what I liked, and it wasn't dresses, and it was hanging out and watching Star Trek and reading Lord of the Rings and playing with Lego bricks. That's what I like doing. And so Galadriel was so unrelatable in this, whereas in the books, she's very relatable. So your thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah, I think I've said this in our Rings of Power discussions. Is like from the one perspective, you're trying to have elves as your main characters, and some of these elves have lived for thousands of years and will live for thousands of more years in Middle Earth before they even leave and live forever.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think part of it is they were trying to provide a place of character development for her. So but I think they pushed it a little too hard. Like I can see wanting to give someone a starting point so that they have a place to get to, which I think they did well with. I think they've done well with Elrond in the show. Like I think he's being developed well, at least better than Galadriel. But I do think that I think they leaned into the trying to match the energy of the pop culture of we need to have a warrior princess and have her be the action hero, which you could have done, but I think they went a little too hard with it, and making her very different from where she would have been in the story to where she ends up in by the time of Lord of the Rings. So I think they went a little too far in that. I think
they did. She was insufferable, quite frankly, if I'm going to be honest. I just felt like she was the kind of, and I feel like I'm just trashing women, and I'm not. But Kathryn, have you ever met like a girl who's like, oh, I'm super tough, I'm all this stuff, and then like a spider walks across a desk or something, and they freak out, and you're like, really? You really just did that? Do you know what I'm saying? Like those kind of fake tape tough girls. Like you're trying too hard.
Yeah. Just anytime a woman's being fake, it's annoying. Yes. And quite honestly, anytime a woman stops at her heart being a woman, it's annoying. I had very tough, great role models in my life growing up with some of my great aunts because they were the Rosie the Riveters. Grew up in Detroit area. These women were tough, but still women. And that's what was so impressive is they still had their husbands as their first love, their defender, but they could still, if they needed to, take someone down. So it's like there's a difference between a warrior princess and a woman who's a true warrior.
Yeah. And one of the things I didn't like about Galadriel is how she would really emasculate the men around her. That's another thing I didn't like about her, is how she treated Elrond. Remember when they were supposed to, it's like I should have just purged this whole thing from my memory. But remember they were supposed to, he was sent on some quest and she's like, oh, I'm going and I'm the leader. It's like, really, lady?
Yeah.
And then she does something stupid and then everybody has to go and rescue her. Annoying. Oh my gosh. Sorry. So this is why I was not asked to do the show,
You're always welcome.
weekly.
We enjoy these perspectives as well.
Oh my gosh, everybody's so nice. Yeah, I know, but you're nice about it. Whereas I would be like, yeah, this would be like one of those women I would have to like take her aside and tell her to shut up or else. But anyway, but she did do, it was let's just say, Galadriel from the second age to the third age, there was a huge amount of character development. And perhaps that's because of Celeborn. I have no idea. Not Celeborn. Is that who she's married to?
Yes.
Celeborn. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing with the show. What they've done with Galadriel is Celeborn she's mentioned him and that they were married, but that he's been gone, and they don't say. So
because he's married to you, lady.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're trying to imply that she thinks he's dead, or because their daughter Celebrian is whom Elrond marries, and who's the grandmother, so Galadriel's the grandmother of Arwen, and. But they've messed with the timeline a lot, and I just think that's another part that's like isn't making a lot of sense in the show. Is like Arwen should be around by now and should have been, or not Arwen. Yeah. Or Celebrian should have been around by now because her and Elrond have to marry and have Arwen, who I think Arwen was born in the third age, or at the end of the second age. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, early on. I think early on in the third age.
Okay,
she was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But anyway, they've messed with the timeline, so I'm not. I try not to let that bother me too much because otherwise I just would rant about it constantly. But
exactly, you mean like me?
But speaking of, so one character in the show that I think has done well so far has been Queen Tarmiriel, the Queen of Numenor. I don't know if you, I don't know if you agree or not. Or maybe better than Galadriel. How about that?
Oh, totally. But I just think I don't understand why, like, you shouldn't have to put someone down to raise yourself up. And too often, I think in today's, like, the pop culture, whether it's fantasy or whatever, this is how women seem to gain power, is they humiliate and they put men down in order to raise themselves up, or that's how the characters are written. So the writers put the men down in order to raise the women up. And that to me is not an indication of a strong person. That's not what a strong person,
especially not a strong woman.
Exactly. And so I think Queen Tarmiriel, she didn't do that to her husband. But the way,
what was her dad in the show?
Was it her dad?
She's forced, at least in Silmarillion, is forced to marry Pharazôn, or like, I don't know how they're gonna do that in the show, but
okay. So maybe I'm getting her mixed up with somebody else. But there was someone, Elendil. His
wife is gone. We learned that she died saving Isildur from drowning in the show.
Oh, for goodness sake. Whatever. Sorry. Yeah, but I just think, I think that's what let's just say generally in the Rings of Power, the way the women were written, the writers had to push the men down to raise the women up. And I just think that's bad writing. That's not, again, that's not what strong women do at all. They do they do what Luthien did. She never humiliated Beren at all. She was like right there with him. Like, this is what we need to do. If I need to put this dead bat skin on me and fly somewhere, you put on that dead wolf and we'll get it done. Yeah. So shall we go on to the third age?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, if we want to talk a little bit more about Rings of Power, I do like the characters. which I think they're actually the best written, I like how Muriel's written, but I think Disa, Durin's wife in the show, is very well written.
Yes, I agree with you on that.
And she and the Stone Singers are just an interesting idea of dwarven women who sing to the mountain to kind of unveil where they're going to mine next. And she's an equal partner with Durin, kind of like you said, like kind of like Beren and Luthien. Like Luthien's right there with Beren, and Disa's right there with Durin.
Yes, I will give you that. Absolutely. The dwarf women are really well written. Like they're like proper women. Do you know what I mean?
True helpmates.
Yeah.
True helpmates. Yeah. Yeah. And they look like they can cook well as well. Do you know what I mean? I do like them. Yeah, and you're right. And I like how they work together, where the Stone Singers, they sing in the mines, they talk to the mountains, and they kind of give a perspective on the mountains that the men folk dwarves don't have, and vice versa. And because of that, they work with the mountains. They understand it's a living thing, and they really, the entire community thrives because of how they work together. So yes, that I will give that to Rings of Power. It's just the elf women that I have no time for. Yeah. On to the Third Age. Okay. So, Jeff, how about you talk about? I'm pretty sure that we've got Kathryn and I have some characters here that we really like. But how about you talk about a couple that you're interested in?
So I put on here, even though she's in the Third Age, but we learn about her because she's not alive by the time of Lord of the Rings, and or she might not even be. I don't think she's alive by the time of The Hobbit either, if I'm not mistaken. She might be, but Gilrain, who's Aragorn's mom, and because Aragorn's father was the chief of the Dunedain, who they're all kind of, I believe that they're kind of all living together. The Dunedain are out in Eriador, which is kind of a region, kind of in the middle of Middle Earth, kind of near. I think it's kind of near the Shire and near where Gondor and Arnor are. I think it's part of Arnor, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, but after Aragorn's father is killed, she brings him to Rivendell to be raised, kind of not in secret, but she changes his name to Estelle, meaning hope, and that's where he's known for a long time until he comes of age, and then Elrond kind of tells him his parentage, tells him his lineage, but she kind of strikes me as well as kind of a Virgin Mary type of figure, kind of the mom of the king who will be, but kind of having to live through the heartbreak of, losing her husband, losing Aragorn's father. And then also, I think she says in the text, or it's said that she said that she gives hope to all men, but keeps none for herself.
Keeps none for herself. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
So, and if you want to see kind of a depiction of her, they made the fan film Born of Hope, which we did cover on the podcast. It came out in like the early or mid 2000s or something. And I think it's a pretty good fan film. I mean, it's a fan film, but I think it is pretty good. But that's kind of a story about her and Aragorn's father. I believe Arathorn. I don't even remember his.
Arathorn. Yeah. It is Arathorn.
Okay, yeah.
Arathorn, son of Arathorn.
So yeah, I think even in the Lord of the Rings films, you get to see. It almost looks like Aragorn's going to a Virgin Mary statue in kind of the graveyard of Rivendell, where there's a statue that looks like a Virgin Mary, and he's kind of remembering her and kind of praying, I guess, for her as much as we see prayers in the film. So
yeah, I
think she's a very powerful character whose presence, even if she's not in the Lord of the Rings, like her presence is known.
Yeah, she sounds like Tolkien's mother.
I think
that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. And she was think about this, the painful sacrifice she made, sending her son away. That would have been agonizing. And they're long-lived, long-lived people. So, Kathryn, do you have anybody from the Third Age that you'd like to talk about?
Oh gosh, there's so many to think of, but I'd have to say it's Eowyn who's the
Shield Maiden.
That's it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I liked her character a lot. Very much a Joan of Arc kind of character, and her loyalty and service to the men around her made them stronger. You know, like her uncle, her cousins, everything. Just kind of, and then her loyalty to Aragorn. Of course, that was a hard crush, but
yeah,
she ended up with a good one at the end there. But but no, it's like, yeah, she was the epitome of a warrior woman who builds up the men around her and can fight with and for them too.
Yeah,
you got to be able to fight for your man. Quite honestly,
there you go. There you go. Yeah, I loved Eowyn for lots of different reasons. I loved her in the book. And she wasn't perfect. She was really wounded. It wasn't just that she was wounded by the Witch King. I think there was something in her heart that had just grown cold. Just because of for such a long time, she just had to survive and do what she needed to do to help her uncle, who she saw, who was deteriorating. And she had this creepy guy following her around, it was really weird. But so there was a part of her heart that was like stone, and the king, through kind of introducing her to Faramir, he kind of created this environment that they both could heal one another, because Faramir had a lot of pain that needed to be healed as well. But in the movie, what I really liked about I loved Eowyn in the films. She is one of my favorite female characters of all time in films. And one of the reasons is because I could relate to her in that so obviously when she found out that Aragorn had a girlfriend, she's like, okay, that's the way it is. I'm moving on, or not moving on, but I'm not going to pursue this. And I just respect that so much. Do you know what I mean? Like, to have someone who's like, oh, constantly trying. This is what I mean. Like, characters in films, like, oh, I'm going to win you over. Like, come on, girl, you're embarrassing yourself. I just never could relate to that kind of thing, but I could relate to someone going, okay, this isn't exactly what I had hoped, but I have my self-respect. I respect him, and whoever he's with, I respect, and I'm moving on. That's it. And I loved how she kept her dignity. And when she went to fight, it's interesting because this character she took on kind of the role of a man, a young man who was fixated on death. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to battle and I'm going to die in battle. But she wasn't like a girl boss about it. It was beautiful how she did it. She, for love of her people and probably love of Aragorn, she's like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And ultimately at the end, I'm thinking about again in the film when Theoden is dying and he says, you have to let me go. And the last thing he said was her name. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. Bawling. And I don't like to cry at movies, but yeah, I mean, what a beautiful character she is.
And she even picked up the smallest of creatures to come fight, who could not fight. They're like, you're too small. No.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because she saw his heart. Mm-hmm. You want to fight. I want to fight. And everybody else thinks that we can't do it, but the two of them together did the very thing that nobody else could do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what's the famous, I am no man.
I am no man. Love that line.
Oh, me too. That's the best line. Best line in Middle Earth. Yes. In fact, I have a T-shirt that someone got me for Christmas one year, and it says, "I am no man" on it. Who could have done that?
Battle cry, Alex.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So Jeff, do you have another character? I've got a couple from the Third Age, but do you have another one you want to talk about?
Yeah. So since we're talking about kind of Éowyn and Rohan, I was just curious what y'all thought of if you saw it, the War of the Rohirrim, because you have the main character being Hera, who is she basically is a shield maiden of Rohan. She's kind of a proto Éowyn, and I thought it was interesting in that movie that that you find out that there is actually and again, I don't know, I'm not saying this is canon to Tolkien. It could be in the writing somewhere, but there was actually a kind of one of the houses of Rohan, like one of the vassals. There was kind of a house that was shield maiden, and her kind of nurse or kind of attendant was one of these shield maidens. And in that movie, it's Hera who goes and requests, basically she asks an eagle to call her cousin to come in and because the Rohirrim have retreated at Helm's Deep, and they're under siege by the by these I forget what they're, the Dunlendingers, and they don't have anyone who can come out and fight. So she's the one who gets her cousin there to come in and save the people, but she had to have she had to climb up a mountain to chase, and she was always kind of known as a kind of a wild child who wasn't going to sit in court and listen to the men talk and just kind of be a princess to be married off and to strengthen an alliance. She was going to be she wanted to be a part of it too. And at least for me, I like that movie, and I think she was done well. And I think in the text, it's kind of just mentioned that King Helm Hammerhand had a daughter, but she's not named. So I do like, again, this is not necessarily canon to the books, but I like that as kind of in part of the on-screen canon that I think is done well in contrast to others, like we were talking about Galadriel from Rings of Power.
Yeah. I think I did see War of the Rohirrim. Was that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And all I can remember is that guy on the big scaffolding playing a drum.
Oh gosh, all the way down.
Yes.
I know. I was like, who is this guy? But anyway, yeah, she was kind of like a proto Éowyn. So you could see where Éowyn had these examples in her culture of women who did have to fight. She said, women learned that you can die by the sword even if you don't have one.
Yeah, and because in that movie, the frame narrative is Éowyn, voiced by the same actress, telling her children this story. So it connects it to Éowyn there as well. Yeah,
and I like the fact that she has children and she's telling them the story. Warrior women can have children. Yes, they can. So a couple others I wanted to talk about that I thought about was Rosie Cotton. What a fantastic character. She, again, Kathryn talking about this person in the background that you don't know, she doesn't say much. If anything, I can't even remember if she says anything in the books, but that's what keeps Sam going. This memory of this sweet, pretty little hobbit, Farmer Maggot's daughter. Wasn't she? No, she wasn't. No, she wouldn't have been Farmer Maggot's daughter. Her last name is Cotton. Anyway, but yeah, I think that's another powerful thing that it's a feminine power, isn't it? To have that, this man, he's going out and facing an ordeal that he never thought he would face, and yet it's memories of her that keep him going. And I think that's so beautiful. Of course, we love Sam anyway. My gosh, you can't do anything wrong.
Well, yeah, she's like the foundation of the whole culture. in Sam's eyes anyway. This is what it's all about. It's Rosie Cotton, and she's there at the pub, she's there at the fair,
Yeah.
And eventually she's what, mayor's wife, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And didn't they have like 9 kids?
They had a lot.
Yeah. So she was really a lovely character. And another one, I'll just mention this one, and then we can go on to, unless you have any other just on-screen characters that you want to mention, or will they remain unmentioned? I don't know.
There's the unseen on-screen characters.
Like who?
The Entwives.
Yes.
There's something so intriguing about them. Because I have a funny feeling that the Entwives can move really fast, and they just got tired of the conversation with the guys. So think of them as like those strong, aggressive, quick-growing trees, and they just were like, see you, boys.
That's so funny. Oh my gosh.
Well, and we do see one in Rings of Power. We see an Ent and an Entwife. Yeah. So
that's true. She was, I'm not going to say anything.
Worthy of the axe or not?
Well, I kind of always thought it, because, Treebeard talks about how they're bent over and they're like sunburned, like their cheeks are rosy from being sunburned. And I always think of them as being like big shrubs in the, like... And she was just a little, I mean, I can understand she was very upset. Somebody had killed a tree. I can totally get that. But I just wanted them to be I wanted her to have a little more meat on her bones. Do you know what I mean? Like Treebeard doesn't look like he'd go for somebody that skinny. I don't know. Yeah, a little more robust, I guess. I would have. Do you remember? Oh my gosh. Do you remember the cartoon, The Last Unicorn?
I've heard of it. I've not watched.
Oh my gosh. Greatest cartoon ever. Terrified me. So do you remember there was a tree?
Jeff, you have to watch it.
Oh, totally. Now you have to watch it. So there's this tree that came to life when the wizard was like tied to a tree, and the tree comes to life, and it's a woman tree. Do you remember her?
I'm starting to now. I had forgotten about it.
That's what I imagined an Entwife would look like. And so when she showed up and she was like all scraggly and crawling around, I'm like, that's not how I pictured you. But anyway,
I was hoping they'd be like the trees in the movies of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where they could almost take off on a breeze. Their petals would reform their shape and.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. I'm thinking they just want to be these big, like, I don't know, grandma bodies. And I mean that in the very best way. Yeah. Just.
Are you thinking solid. Like in Disney's Pocahontas, Grandmother Willow?
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, a little bit like her. But I think the one that I really am thinking of is the tree in The Last Unicorn. So Jeff, I'll send you an image of this tree. Yeah. And you'll be like, oh yeah, that's totally an Entwife. Probably. Well, it was done maybe at the same studio that did the cartoon Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. So. Yeah. So they could have been completely, if they'd imagined what the Ents looked like, this is what the Entwives could look like. Yeah. So did you want to talk about anybody else, Jeff?
Well, we talked a little bit about her family, but Arwen, I think, is another one, because she's, and there is, I do acknowledge there's the difference between the book and the movies. And I'm a movie guy, so I like the movie version of Aragorn kind of I like that the reluctant having to decide to take his throne and whatnot. And part of that was he didn't want to doom Arwen to a life of a mortal life when she could live forever in the movie. But in the book, it was like from the beginning, she and Aragorn were going to get married, but he had to, his quests, like Baron's, was he had to do some kind of impossible task. And his was that Arwen could marry no one less than the king of Gondor and Arnor. So and in the book, she's, I think, more, as we kind of mentioned, kind of the background character, but she's kind of Rosie Cotton for Aragorn. Like she's the one he wants to come back to.
Yeah.
In the movie, and I think I do like her interpretation in the movie where she does get a little bit of an action scene where she is the one who gets Frodo to safety, and is fleeing from the Nazgul, and even is able to use her father's, kind of tap into her father's power by calling in the, calling on the river to come and wash away the Black Riders. So I so she is kind of more of the warrior princess there, but I think it's done better than Rings of Power in Galadriel.
Yeah. And, another thing I was thinking about when you're talking about Eowyn, or Arwen, is these names are so similar. I think she was beautifully written in the films. And I love the part when she gets off of she takes Frodo, because she took basically, they replaced Glorfindel with Arwen in the films. And so when she gets across the river and all of the Nazgul are destroyed, and she takes Frodo off of the horse and she cradles him like a child, and she says, "Whatever grace I have, give it to him." And I just thought, that's a mother. That's so perfect. And it was so beautifully done. And my theory is, in the film, that's when she traded her immortal life for a mortal life. She gave that grace to Frodo so that he could. And I'm sure that's part of what enabled him to do what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
my other favorite scene of hers from the movie is when she has the vision of the future and sees her son. That is definitely a mother role. It's like you look at your spouse and you can see generations, and that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of that scene, that's interesting too, because Elrond is focused on, he says, "I looked into your future and I saw death." Like, he's not focused on the life that could come. He's only focused on, and I mean, it's out of love for his daughter. Like, I do acknowledge that. So it's not like a, modern age thing of like, if you have a child, your life is over. But yeah. Arwen, she sees that as life, and as, yes, I will have, 100 more years or whatever. I forget how long she lives. Like, because she does live a long time, because she is half elf. Not like mathematically, but you know what I mean? Like, she's descended from an elven human bloodline. And, I think that's interesting that, like, because Elrond chose to live among the elves, and his brother Elros chose to live among men. And it's kind of Eru's grand plan is to ennoble men to take dominion of Arda. And that kind of comes through Melian introducing that Maiar blood with their daughter Luthien, who marries Beren, and it kind of trickles down through the centuries until it's reunited. And because Aragorn and Arwen are like 64th cousins or something crazy, they're descended from one of the.
So they could still. It's okay for them to get married.
Yeah, they're far enough apart. but anyway, all that to say is, it's interesting that she sees that as life, whereas her father, like, he's worried about his daughter and his life, but she's worried about, like, her children that would never be if she chooses to leave. And then she kind of gives that grace to Frodo, which helps him, I think, live in the movie, at least helps him live there, but then also helps him be allowed to go to the Undying Lands. He's not going to live forever, but he will be able to live in peace there till he does die. So
yeah. Do you know, as you're talking, Jeff, I was just thinking about another scene with Frodo and the women. And when he is, oh my gosh, they're in the Darklands, and he collapses, and he wakes up and he sees himself back in Lothlorien. Mm-hmm. And Galadriel, this is in the film, and Galadriel kind of leans over, smiles at him, takes him by the hand, and stands him up. And then he suddenly, I'm back at this place. But and again, that's a very motherly thing to do, is, your child or your husband or your friend or your sister or whomever is kind of at their lowest, it should be an instinct to just go, and not in a harsh way, but just kind of give them a hand up, and that's it. I love that. Yeah.
And just
It's
one
my
more
favorite Virgin Mary reference.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
Well, and another Galadriel thing that also is kind of a Virgin Mary thing is she obtains for Gimli grace to go to the Undying Lands as well.
That's right.
And again, he's not going to live forever, but he's the only dwarf, one of the only mortals who gets to go and not be, and not be killed, from Air. Like, it's through, she inspires that humility in Gimli to, because Gimli is very anti, like he and the elves, like there's bitterness there, but he sees Galadriel and kind of that's where him and Legolas start to become BFFs through, I think partly through seeing the beauty of Galadriel, and then she obtains that grace for him to be able to go and go to the Undying Lands.
Yeah, it's that perfect friendship. You love when two people love a third thing. That's friendship.
Well,
and
how do we know they didn't hear the story from Legolas about Tauriel?
Oh, gosh. Oh, man. Yeah. She was just.
I will say, Kathryn and I we were both on the Hobbit movie discussions about Tauriel. I will say, aside from the romance part, I did like her character, and I thought she was an interesting kind of friend to Legolas, because there was kind of a thing, like I think Legolas kind of had a thing for her, but his dad kind of dissuaded him, and she was kind of opposed to it as well. So I like that
she wasn't opposed to it.
So I like their friendship in the movie, but yes, then they had to go and do the contractual reference of elf dwarf romance.
Yeah. I mean, Alex, you know that she is the embodiment of our tomboy youth, right?
A little bit. Yes, that's true. Yeah. And she was actually a good tomboy, I have to say. But yeah, I think what turned me off about her character is not necessarily her character. I thought her character was okay. It was why somebody felt like she needed to be there. I hate, don't throw that little bone to me. I don't need it. I'm happy with just hanging out with the guys. I don't need another girl here unless she's going to be like me in a t-shirt and jeans and drinking a beer. Other than that, not worried. You know what I mean?
So if she didn't have the romance, you would have been on board with her.
Probably, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. I just didn't, it was just, I'm just going to leave it here. There's certain things about that film, like when they put, was it Keeley? Yeah, Keeley. Yeah. When they put him on the table because he had the poison, and they had like a bag of walnuts for a pill. I'm like, that kind of stuff, like those little weird details. I'm like, that's distracting to me because that makes no sense. A bag of nuts for a pillow? I don't know. So that's why they were just, I could tell when I was noticing things like that I was obviously annoyed by a lot of things in the film.
They had to show he was a tough nut.
Oh my goodness.
She was going to break his stony heart. No,
that's it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, he was cracked. Yeah, for sure. Anyway, oh my goodness. Well, this was fun. And I think we've got some listener feedback, and Jeff, I'm happy to read it.
Go for you.
Yeah. So a reading day feedback. The first one is from Tammy. We love Tammy. And she says, wow, a surprise cameo from Tom Bombadil himself. I definitely didn't see that coming, but well done, Tom. I think Fatty Bulger is my favorite unlikely hero. I distinctly remember first reading the book and being sure poor Fatty was about to wander out of the fairy tale and right into a slasher film. I'd like to add to that, the Cotton family and all the other brave hobbits who turned up in the end to save the Shire from Sharky and his minions. Of course, it took our hero hobbits to get them going, but they couldn't have done it alone. I also think of Luthien, yay, in general, and the scene in that particular. Every time I hear someone say that Tolkien was a misogynist and didn't give any good parts to female characters, that makes me roll my eyes hard enough to make my contact lenses pop out. Sounds like we could have a beer with Tammy, Kathryn.
All right.
Yes, I agree 100%. 100%. Mercury on Discord says, great episode. I loved it all and the unlikeliest of heroes. I think Bombadil's WWE alter ego would have been Andre the Giant.
Yeah, because we were joking that all these characters have a wrestler kind of counterpart. Like
that's right.
That's a long running joke.
That's so funny. And the most unlikely hero. So from Lord Goggins on YouTube, he says, the most unlikely hero is Waldreg for saving me from complete despair while watching Rings of Power. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And so this is Leaf by Niggle feedback. And Mercury on Discord says, one of your comments was about our world being shadows cast from the real world above. And there's a great passage in The Golden Key written by George MacDonald, fantastic fantasy author, by the way, who was a sort of predecessor of Fairy, takes to Tolkien and Lewis. The story is an allegory of the characters Mossy and Tangle and their journey together throughout life. At one point, they see shadows cast on the ground from a higher place. I think of leaves, and they spend the rest of the story searching for that country from whence the shadows fall. And Daniel Harrison 7289 on YouTube says, I must confess that when I read this story for the first time, I was so narrowly focused on the idea that my two favorite authors were friends that I thought Parrish was Lewis. I still think of that when I read about the two creating a place that leads people to heaven. I like that. So, yeah. Any thoughts on any of those? I kind of sped through those. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I wasn't on the Leaf by Niggle episode, but Kathryn was, and y'all did a great job. So there's some live feedback. I really enjoyed listening.
Yeah. I thought you did a great job, Kathryn. It made me think.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. It made me think a lot about drawing again. Yeah. So that's it for this episode of The Secrets of Middle-earth. We'd like to take a moment to thank all of our patrons who make this show possible, including Rebecca S., Gabe S., James S., Darren W., and Pamela F. Their generous donations help us to continue to create The Secrets of Middle-earth and all the shows on StarQuest. You can join them at givestarquest.com. Be sure to follow The Secrets of Middle-earth on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, or any podcast directory or app. And you can find us on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or on X, where we are at SQPN, or on Instagram, where we are at StarQuest Network. And don't forget that you can get your official Secrets of Middle-earth merch, including our awesome t-shirt at sqpn.com/merch. It's a great way for you to support the show and to show your love for Tolkien and his wonderful world of Middle-earth. Now, we'd love to hear from you, our listeners. Do you have a favorite woman of Middle-earth? You can let us know on our Facebook page or on Twitter, or by sending an email to middleearth@sqpn.com, by leaving us a comment on YouTube or on Spotify, or by visiting our channel on the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. Join us next time discussing the topic of fate and free will in the Middle-earth. Until then, thank you for joining us. And thank you, Kathryn, and thank you, Jeff, for joining us in sharing the secrets of Middle-earth. And I'm Alix Murray. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Middle-earth on StarQuest. Bye-bye.
Here's another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy. The Secrets of Stargate. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Stargate.